Welcome to the Fractured Families podcast. I'm Charity, your dedicated parental alienation coach, here to guide and support families as they navigate the challenges of high conflict divorces and custody battles. On this podcast, we'll share insights, practical strategies, and hope for those on the journey toward healing and justice. Whether you're personally experiencing these challenges or just want to learn more about the complexities of parental alienation and custody disputes, you're in the right place. You are not alone. This is the Fractured Families podcast, where every voice matters and every story is heard. And if you find my conversation helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us reach more families who need it. Hi, this is Charity, your host of the Fractured Families podcast. I have with me today Luis Trejo Villanueva. He comes to us with his story about his son, Mateo, who has been taken from him through parental alienation. Luis is going to share with us what he endured, some tips for parents who are going through it. And so we welcome you, Luis, and thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you, Charity. As we were talking before, this is an ongoing experience for me. I don't have all the answers. I don't think any of us had all of the answers, but I do hope that coming together and sharing our experiences will make us stronger and will enable us with better tools, and especially for the kids, right? Because it's our responsibility. So I'm super happy to be here and super happy to share my experience, and anybody that want to share or reach out, I'm super available to hear them, to give my advice in any ways I can.
Great. When we finish up here, we'll make sure we let them find a way to contact you if they want to reach out.
Awesome.
Great. All right, Luis, so get us started. Tell us how this all started, how you two met, where you started to recognize parental alienation, and how long you've been separated.
Oh, yes. My relationship with my son's mother began almost 5 years ago. I'm from Venezuela. I'm currently located in Chile. I migrated over here, and I immigrated alone, basically. So I didn't have like all my friends from the university and schools and my family, etc. What I did here to try to meet new people was basically to engage through social media or do dating apps. And actually, her mother and I met through Tinder. I never had really an experience like hers before. Began like a really nice relationship. It was super fast. That's one little warning sign for me, because it's usually you take some time to meet a person and to share and get to know each other. But with her, it was super fast. We actually became boyfriends. In no time, I was staying in her home and vice versa. So I found very appealing that she came from a migrant family, so she was very open to, and very like me in meaning looking for improvement, looking to maybe try to having an entrepreneur side of that of herself, making some changes. She had hunger for more, as I do, and I felt that that was a fit for me, because I was looking for someone that could be that partner, that we can build something wonderful for each other, a family, each other, etc. So our relationship was on the beginning stages wonderful. If I compare with my other relationships, this one resulted the most on the first 6 to 8 months, probably. After that, there were some signs, some warnings that some family dynamics on her side were not particularly good, or made me feel good and comfortable. It was a little bit confusing, because they try to open up for me, and they give me a welcome, and etc. But at the same time, there was a lot of talking behind some backs, and that generated a lot of tension in a relationship. She always said, "Oh no, my family is saying that or that," and I didn't understood till later that she was playing the same game towards them. She was basically accusing me of some stuff and basically playing the victim for both sides. And that started to put a lot of stress in their relationship. We break out, we came back together, we break out again, and we came back together, and it started to become like a pattern. We are started to get used to it. Finally, we were like, this relationship really is not going nowhere. It's probably we stay friends, and of course, I was really attached with her because having shared a lot of me with her and being the only person that, quote unquote, I had in that moment, it was a challenge for me, to get away. And that's why I was so incident in the relationship stuff. One day she came with the I'm pregnant stuff. And of course, for me, it was a kind of a wonderful news. I always wanted to be a father. So I immediately wanted to, okay, let's figure this out. Let's see what can we do. Maybe go to couples therapy, and we tried that. Unfortunately, that didn't work because the therapist put some agreements to each other, right? And so we have some agreements that she didn't comply with hers. She avoided many of the responsibilities. I don't want to speak for her, but my feedback from the therapist was that she was super avoidant of any kind of responsibility on not only the things that happened through the relationship, but in her life in general. That was really tough because it started to become a thing that no matter how much I tried, no matter how much I gave from myself, it wasn't enough, and I started to actually damage my own self-worth, my confidence in work, in my general life. Because I started to think, actually, maybe I'm this bad, maybe I'm not good. And that was my final warning to actually stay away from the relationship, sadly. So we did. We did separate. We agreed to be separated parents, but with the focus on Mateo. At the beginning, it sort of worked out, but not so much because she always engaged in trying to get back together and do those stuff. And the more I rejected those attempts, she started to use Mateo. Since he was born, I was present when he came to this world, and it was a really wonderful experience. I still remember him getting, with his hand, my finger. Um, and he was under my care, being weeks old. Uh, so we really bonded uh, since he was super little. He used to stay in my home when her mother went to work. And on preparation, when she was pregnant, I proposed my manager, hey, let's work on this role and me work remotely one week on my home, maybe the other week on the office. And I actually made it so I was able to look out for him and to spend time with him. But each time she tried something and I rejected, out of nowhere, the kid was sick, had the flu, or she didn't want to bring him, and she started to use him as a exchange for me to agree on certain terms on her. And that was generating conflicts because I wasn't able to understand why she didn't was capable of, making a separation between our emotions or wants versus the priority and the well-being of our common kid. And finally, after rejection and rejection and after many rejections, she started to become a little bit more aggressive. more violent on her impulses. She does have a little bit of an issue there of controlling her impulses, and but that started to become more consistent and increasing. By November 17th of two, I went to deliver the kid, because we used to have an agreement. So on Saturdays, I used to pick up him at 9 a.m. and I deliver him at 6 p.m. But his grandfather, her father, asked me to came 1 hour early. And yes, I agreed. I took the kid from 5 p.m. But she was the one receiving the kid that day for some reason, and she started to want me to talk again. I mentioned we have co-post therapy. The therapist told me after we failed on the process, she recommended that either when I spoke or communicate with her, I should make it on public places or record or evidence somehow everything of those interactions. So that became somewhat of a practice, or started to become somewhat of a practice that later down the road actually helped me a lot. And I started to record on that moment, and she didn't want to receive the kid, so I had to call the grandpa for him to actually come out for the home and receive the kid. He did, but at that moment she basically lost. She freaked out and she broke my shirt, and the kid was looking on that. So that's what the point I decided I need to get involved with the family court, to set the times and to provide an stability for the kid and avoid this kind of situations, because it wasn't the first time that Mateo has to look her mother and his father to fight, and that's not a good thing for a kid. He was very little. He had 1 year, 8 months probably by then. You can see in her face he was scared in those moments, and it was my responsibility. It is my responsibility to take care of him and avoid those situations. So I did that. Of course, I let her know. I mentioned on the best good term I could. Listen, let's do this. Let's set up an established pattern for the kid. Let's respect that. Let's secure that. And at the moment, she agreed, and she actually said sorry for what she had. Well, she used to do that. She said sorry and do it again and stuff. By January, because I have never, by that time, have never been involved in nothing related to code. So I started getting interviews with different firms and to understand the process, what it meant. It was tough for me to actually get people I trust, because this was my most vulnerable side. We're talking about my son.
Yeah.
And finally, I met people that I felt comfortable and had all the right references, etc. They were very professional, and we started to draft the case, right? By March of the next year, we were ready to actually engage, and the court were to summon us to begin the process. And I notified her of that, because there were a few months that passed on the meantime. So trying to be the most, collaborative and open and as possible, I let her know. She immediately left her work, and I was with my son in the department, and she just arrived banging on the door and telling me that I wanted to take away her kid from her. And I was like, what are you talking about? We already discussed this.
Yeah.
And she wanted to talk, but I do know how is that talking, how it goes when she's upset. So I recommended that we talk maybe later. She wanted then to take a kid, and I agreed. I said, okay, let's avoid any fight. Let me. Mateo has should paid milk, so I dressed him, and I opened up the door keeping the kid. She forced the entry. I made the mistake of because I was holding Mateo with my right arm. I made the mistake to try to stop her with my left hand. I was recording that, by the way. She didn't. She had. I couldn't stop her without putting in harm's way the kid. So I let her in, and I tried to put Mateo away and try to calm her down. She wasn't definitely calming down. She started to hit me um, about half my height, so it really physically cannot hurt me. But it wasn't nice. It is not nice to get hit by anyone, so especially not in your place, especially not in front of your kid. So I definitely called the cops. More in the beginning was actually the spirit of that was to get her away, get her going, or and stop doing what she was doing. And she didn't left. The police actually arrived, and they detained her. And of course, they took us both to evidence some kind of any kind of harm and stuff. She, in the declaration, she said, "No, I wasn't harmed by him. I was the one that lost control." And I thought everything, stopped there. But 5 days after that, on the family court first audience, she presented herself with allegations of being of violence, that I supposedly on that day I attacked her and I tried to choke her and some stuff. She was using my video, the one I recorded that I provided to the police, which you can see that I was putting in the door my left hand like that, and when she tried to force, my hand came for to this point, and that was it. That was the violence, and I was forced to not see my son for about 3 months because I came out with a restraining order. I couldn't get closer, so she didn't agree, of course, to let the kid come. So she was punishing me for that. She didn't let Mateo to see me on video calls. She actually set up a drive folder where she said, "Okay, you need to stop asking for him. I will upload some photos and stuff on there, and there you can see it." And I found that unacceptable. I wasn't a bad father. I wasn't a bad man. I didn't deserve that. The kid actually adored me and to share time with me. I understand that she was hurt by being detained. It wasn't my intention either to do that. But I mean, if the consequences of our own actions, we need to some time in our life to be mature enough to actually understand that, hey, and not take it personally, because really I wasn't trying to make it personal or to I'm hurt from her. I do have resentment, let's say, but I have been able to separate my emotions from what do we show the kid. Because at the end of the day, whatever I do to her, whatever I say about her, it will reflect on our own boy. And it's not a good, it's not good for him, not for me, not for her. So I try to avoid any conflict on that matter. And all the things or the emotion, I keep it for myself. I try to talk with her about that. Listen, I didn't mean it. Let's collaborate let's figure out what happened. And but she wasn't agreeing to open up on that way. Finally, I was able, thanks to the family court. I mean, in the beginning, it was awful because I was the bad guy from all the standing points. But, as a recommendation, actually, as a spoiler of my recommendation at the end of the interview, one thing, if you go to any court process, you have to understand that probably you will be the villain for the most part of the story. And you have to endure. You have to endure, and you have to be sure that all the truth will come out, and to present your evidences with confidence, not to avoid to allow your emotions and the injustice to actually take you out of focus, because I think that's the play, that's what they look for. I mean, your counterpart.
Yeah.
I have to be evaluated by psychologists, by psychiatrists to evidence my parental capabilities, and they actually evaluated hers too, and turns out that mine were uh, superior than hers, and she need to improve on several stuff. So all the allegations that I didn't have a family, I was a man, how a man can actually take care of a kid, all those started to, being shown away, thanks to that. So it is true. You need to endure and to trust the process, and show yourself with all the truth, and put yourself to the process, as painful as it is. And it was tough. Economically, it was tough. Mentally, it was super tough.
Yeah.
Emotionally, it was demolishing me. But I had confidence in my responsibility with my kid, and he's a beautiful kid, so I couldn't let him alone. I couldn't uh, renounce to the gift that God gave me when he decided to make me his father. So I just endured. I actually think that victory is for my son, not for any of us. But we had something called shared care. Basically, with both parents have the same amount of weight when in regards to the child's care. So he was appointed to live with me 1 week, and the next week with his mother, and so on. And that was wonderful. From that point on, that was 2 years ago, were the best 2 years of my life, really, because we have the freedom to share time as he deserved. We traveled, we painted, we came with our own agenda, and our own practice on a daily basis on things we share together. I put him in a school, and we used to work on the homework, and I mean, it was wonderful. It wasn't, free of attempts from her side, sadly, to distort that, because about a month after the family court awarded the shared care, she started to say she didn't agree with that, and she started to uh, try to come out with stuff to revert on that. I didn't know this at the beginning, because there is something that I definitely should have done better, that people say what they're up to, and you need to listen, because she started every time, every Sunday I delivered Mateo, she started immediately. She sent an email saying, hey, the kid came sick. The kid has the flu. Maybe you are not taking care of him. Maybe you need to put some more clothes of him. The kid has some bruises. What happened to him? Did you hit him? And you were like, what is this? And of course, I was a little bit, how do you say it? Not aware, because I didn't have any experience like this before, that she was trying to build a case to revoke the shared care.
To create
And
doubt.
yeah, exactly. And my position was to answer, hey, no, he didn't just went sick. Probably some of the time, yes, because I don't know, winter, with the other kids, they get the flu, etc. But I started to notice that, and then to evidence on that, that sometimes, many times, he came, for example, with the flu on Sunday, and by the next Sunday when he left, he was on the ending stages of the flu, but she still sent that email, even knowing he came already sick. And there was when I started to be a little bit suspicious about it. But I didn't want to engage again in discussions and to fights, and I didn't want her to explode like she used to. So I tried to play it cool.
Right.
Going back to the family court process, there was a point, an audience, when they set up for it's a monthly amount that do you deposit to an account of her mother. And we were agreeing on that amount, right? So she came with with a contract from a school, kindergarten, by that time, called Vitamina. And it was only a week old from that point. And she actually signed him up to justify cost. I mean, I was totally okay with that. I mean, the kid needs to go to, to start to educate and to really get the relationship with peers of his same age, etc. So I was, yes, totally okay with that. My problem was that after 3 weeks, she put it out of the schools after we agreed on the amount with the judge, and I started to deposit the monthly payment. She took him out, and her position was, no, the kid is going to be better cared with my mom. And I was like, no, but it's different. We are talking about formal education. Our main education, our principal education is our own family core, but he needs to go there. And you actually sign him up for doing just that. How you change your mind from a week to another. And I wasn't able to come to terms with her for months till December of the same year, taken in account as 2022, probably. Of December, I started to take on that point again a little bit more firmly, because from the school here, you need to apply 1 year prior. So you start to apply here. If the kid is accepted, he will start next year. So we needed to be proactive on that and start looking off to school profiles and the most convenient for both parties and principally for the kid, right? She avoided any answer for about a month, and she came out with something called here in Chile Escuela de Lenguaje. That's about language school. That's for kids that have troubles talking in the beginning stages. And that informed said that Mateo had several issues and he needed a lot of treatment. For me, it was a shock because, I mean, the kid was 2 years, 8 months by that time, and the kid was talking like a parrot. I mean, he was super vocal, super vocal. We haven't shared to that point any concerns regarding communication skills. None of the pediatric specialists ever raise a flag like, hey, this kid maybe needs, I don't know, some kind of treatment, or let's look at this. Nothing at all. And I proposed her because I acknowledge maybe that's a concern from her side. That's totally good. Let's check out with a specialist, phonoaudiologist. She didn't agree with that, so I did took the kid on my side on the week that we shared together, and that first specialist said, no, this kid is not up for a language college, let's say. He actually mentioned me to, I don't recommend he goes there because kids are like sponges, right? And if you put him in an environment where he will be with many other kids that do have an issue on speaking, he will adopt some of those.
Some of those limitations.
Yeah, exactly. Even if he doesn't have it, he will just adopt to the peers.
To the environment,
Exactly. So he didn't recommend it. And I shared that with his mother, but again, she didn't listen. since I live in a place that is called Ñuñoa, maybe let me go to an specialist that is closer to her. So Mateo and I went the next week to an specialist closer to her home. And the other specialist agreed on the same. He's basically said, no, I shared again that with the mother, and well, she discarded. And I found out a month later that Mateo was already signed up since December in the language school. And of course, that school is located a few blocks from his mother's house, and is also paid by the state, so she doesn't pay anything. And I was a little bit upset because I understand why those schools and those establishments exist.
Right.
There are parents that probably don't have the resources for addressing those issues for their kids and need help, and they deserve help. We both were young professionals. We have the capabilities to actually address any issues Mateo could have. He didn't have it, but we could have addressed it if it was the case. And even so, she decided to do it against my advice, against my lack of agreement on her point of view. She didn't want to come to terms. She wanted to take control, absolute control on the kid. I took advice on the specialist, and I actually signed him up on a kindergarten, for him to go to a school and prepare himself for the college, because he needed to develop the ability to respond to the teacher's request and to sit and do homework, pay attention, do the stuff to be able to operate in the classroom environment.
Right.
So I did sign him up for a garden. I invited her to be part of that, not even paying, because I fully covered the inscription and the monthly fee, but to take the kid. She didn't, not a single week. She took the kid, and they proposed me to actually to go on Friday. They share a folder with me with all the homework activities. Our routine on Sundays was I pick him up, we come to the mall and we do shopping. We came home and we played a little bit in the park, and then we go upstairs and we start to work on all the stuff that he needed to do from the school, and it was wonderful. He is a super smart boy, and together here we sit each other and we went through all the homework, and he managed to actually perform and overperform according to the expectative of the school. Sadly, all that went sour by October last year. Because we didn't get to an agreement, and of course that didn't happen for the school either. The school is called Sagrados Corazones de Alameda. They reached out to me via email and said, hey, you know what? 2 kids dropped down and they're not going to start next year in 2025, March. Do you want to participate on this extraordinary process? Yes, of course, let's do it. And I reached out to the mom and said, hey, wonderful news, let's do this. We have the chance to actually being able to, sign up Mateo on this school. It's a wonderful school. Mateo actually went with me to visit the school, and he was in love because he said that it looked like a Harry Potter's castle, because it's huge. The infrastructure is huge. And so I was very happy. And they gave us an interview date for October 8th. And I invited the mom, and well, she didn't came. It was only Mateo and I. And I was worried really because it sets an image for the school of a troubled family. And I was totally open with the interviewer, and I explained the whole situation. So was accepted. And they confirmed that to me about October 17th. a week and a half after that. I was super happy. And yes, they were like, you need to pay now to him being able to, to start the school. And I tried to communicate with the mother, didn't get an answer, so I did sign it up and then I paid. And I sent an email to her in the night, about 9 p.m. or something like that I came home. And I was explaining everything, giving all the good news. She didn't answer, of course, but I was happy. I was naive even because I felt relief that the kid didn't miss 1 year of a school. By next Sunday that I was supposed to pick up the kid, I went there to the place. There was nobody there, and nobody answered the door, nor the phones. They were all turned out. The parents, the grandparents, everybody. I couldn't reach anybody. I received an email from her that said, we are not going to give up Mateo, and we are going to take matters on the court. And for me, it was a shock because I was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Is Mateo okay? What happened?
Yeah.
Because my first thought was maybe something happens to Mateo. She's afraid that I will, I don't know, retaliate or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And so my first answer to her via email was, "It's okay. Then tell me what happened with the kid. Is the kid okay? Talk to me." And she didn't answer. Next day, I of course had to go to Monday to the family court. They gave me a search order that I went to the police, and the police took me to the place to look out for Mateo. Mateo wasn't there. From Mateo's grandmother basically said, "No, my daughter and the kid, they do not live here since 2021." Thankfully, the cop was clever and he had like the final resolution from the family court that was for 2022, 1 year prior for whatever date she was saying. And he was like, "Oh man, your daughter, 1 year after that, you're saying that she doesn't live here, explaining here that this is the place where she lives.
Right.
What's going on?" And of course, she hesitated a bit, and she was a little bit probably nervous and scared. And she gave another address. But the cop said, "Look, we have an order and it only has one address, so we cannot go to the other address."
Yeah.
I was, oh my God. Okay, next day we go to the other address and to the language school. He wasn't in the other address, of course. We went to the language school and they say, "No, since Friday 18th, he hasn't come back to classes." And we tried to reach his mom and we didn't get an answer. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? By Wednesday that week, I received a notification that Mateo went on Friday, 18 October, to something medical because I have it in my insurance. So anything he does he goes to the pediatrician,
Right.
on a pediatric consult, etc. I get a notification of the appointment.
Service. Yeah.
Exactly. I got one from Friday 18. He was like, "I'm curious." That's why I connected. Maybe something happened to him. In my naivety, I was still thinking that. But by the end of the week, I received a notification that I am being accused of being abusive, violent against my kid, and that he was taken to a psychologist. And supposedly he was saying he didn't want to see me anymore because I hit him. And I hit him because apparently he hit himself. I was hitting him. He was saying that he didn't want to see me anymore. And this new psychologist, she said that now Mateo, out of nowhere, is in the he's autistic.
Oh.
Yes, exactly, in the spectrum of autism. And but again, same thing, same pattern than before. We never discuss any warning or concern about Mateo being autistic. Not one single pediatric specialist ever raised a hand on that. None of the caretaker and the teachers that they are prepared to do that. They never actually ever said, "Hey, Mateo, maybe have some, characteristics or something that could make us worry about that." And now he is on that. And for that reason, she didn't recommend us having chair care. And Mateo shouldn't come anymore with me. Since there, I have been trying really hard to see my son again. I asked her to let me see him on video call at least. She refused because, of course, her life will fall apart.
Yeah.
If the kid sees
Yeah.
me, it will be evidence that that's not the case. I've been so many times to the family court now to explain my situation. Since I have these allegations of violence against the kid, they are a little bit, a little, not a lot, she
Hesitant.
said, hesitant to,
Give you access to him.
yeah, and to speed up the process because I say, you know what? If there is an accusation, an allegation of violence, let's get some expert to actually look
Yeah.
at this,
Yeah.
right? And let's see if the father is actually doing that. Let's do it. The next day we should have done that, but no, it's look like it's just the kid is with his mother, so she's okay. And what about the stability that you used to have? What about the shared care that you have legally? That should hold some weight, but apparently not so. What previously I felt that I actually achieve my responsibility to look out for him and to secure his development and his attachment style, his stability in general. I felt it broke down because I didn't have the backup I thought I had from the family court. We are currently running for a complete custody of the kid. Uh, I'm not so hopeful because I understand that I'm in the beginning stages again, and I remember the past process, so I know it's going to be tough. But it is since October I don't see my kid. Since October I don't know about him. I don't know if he is even here in Santiago or not. Um, he doesn't go to school. We didn't get to share my uh, birthday on November, nor his birthday on December, not holidays, not Christmas, no New Year, no vacations, summer vacations right now. The last time I saw Mateo, many of the times he didn't want to go. He cried, and I promised him I was going to look him, pick him up on the next Sunday, and I wasn't. I mean, I was,
Yeah.
but I don't know what he's feeling. I don't know what she's thinking. I don't know what she's pulling into her head. He said
Yeah.
because I assume this psychologist actually made that report and that those allegations is because the kid actually said that.
Of course. Yeah.
Um, uh, but she didn't. She didn't even interview me. She didn't even
They don't.
uh,
It's very
book him.
one-sided. It's very
Yep.
one-sided.
Yep.
And unfortunately, Luis, and no matter what country you're in,
Mm,
if an expert, if a psychologist is not trained in the manipulation of the child, then they think the child is telling the truth. They believe children don't lie, but children are a product of their environment. And when
yeah.
they live in an environment where they're afraid to not do what they're told, then they do what they're told. And unfortunately, you are subject to that negative outcome because of that as a loving father.
Yes, indeed. Oh, and that's the fight I'm in today. I know that one of the biggest challenges I have to face, or we parents face in the custody battles and the uh, false allegations battles
Yeah.
are actually coming into terms that you most of the time you are not going to be the lead in the beginning. You are going to be the villain in the beginning. Sadly, that's how the process is. We need to be strong for our kids, even when they lack. I mean, they act on the lack of fundamentals and evidence. We need to trust in the evidence. We need to provide the evidence. Well, I mean, you had to have faith. It's a really challenging process, and I wasn't. I don't think I wouldn't be able to succeed without faith. This experience, not not only this, but actually since Mateo was born, I came closer to God, and to these processes actually serve as a test ground, let's say, for my faith and my conviction that good will rule over bad intentions, because there are bad intentions. Yeah.
But thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing your story, and keep us posted on what happens with Mateo. And any final thoughts for our viewers before we end?
Yes. A few recommendations and a conclusion maybe from my side will be that when you are in these processes, in this process, you need to find ways to reinforce that you are good enough, that you're a good parent, because you will doubt yourself. We need to understand that maybe these personalities that actually act on alienating their own children, they don't come out of nowhere. There are some dynamics that come from different generations in the families, and you need to understand that because it's your kid, the next in line. And I found out that it's very easy to put yourself in the victim mentality, but it is not useful to go that way, because that's actually the mindset that I found they have. I will say, man, you have to endure. You, no matter how hard the weather and the storm comes at you can maybe even, fold a little bit, be flexible, cry if you need to, speak with your friends, with your family, if you need to let it out. Because that is hard for us.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Fractured Families podcast. I hope our conversation has provided you with support, understanding, and actionable insights to help you navigate your own family challenges. Remember, healing is a journey, and reaching out for help is a sign of strength. You're not alone. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach more families in need. You can contact me on social media at Parental Alienation is Real, and visit our website for additional resources and ways to get involved. Stay strong, stay connected, and keep fighting for the family bonds that matter most. Until next time, take care and stay resilient.